The Chinese, with their only supply route, the Burma Road, in Japanese hands, started work on a new road. Men, women, and children built great airfields with their bare hands against the time when giant bombers would be flown in from America. Brazil, in South America, was supplying rubber to her allies. Bauxite was coming in from Dutch Guiana. But it was to the United States that the Allied powers looked for their greatest flow of war materials. By the end of 1942, American production was fully mobilized. The material resources and manpower of the nation were concentrated in a supreme effort to supply the fighting front. Machines of war burn vast quantities of oil. America had to supply the great proportion of this oil. Material from thousands of American factories was sent by 100 routes to every continent. To get these men and materials to the theaters of war was a colossal task. They needed ships. Nothing could move without ships. Great shipyards sprang up in every coastal city. People far inland, who had never seen an ocean, were building parts of ships to be sent overland and then assembled on the coast 1,000 miles away. In 1940, the United States built 54 ships. In 1942, they built 746. In the first 6 months of 1943, they would build 879. But to guarantee that these ships and supplies reached their destinations, more ships were needed. Fighting ships, submarines, destroyers, cruisers, battleships. Aircraft carriers. Ships and men from all the United Nations made up the escort of the precious cargo. The speed of a convoy is held down to that of its slowest ship, routes for law. Supplies had to go to England by way of Newfoundland and Iceland, to Russia around Norway to Murmansk, or by a safer route around South Africa through Iran. With the Mediterranean under Axis control, supplies to the Allied armies in North Africa also had to go around the Cape of Good Hope, through the Indian Ocean and the Red Sea to Suez. To get materials to hard-pressed China meant a trip halfway around the world, from New York around South Africa, or from California around Australia and through India. With her seaports and the Burma Road occupied by the Japanese, everything for China had to be brought in from India over caravan trails or by air, by the most modern means of transportation, or the oldest. Travel over the Atlantic meant thousands of miles of enemy-infested water. A never-ending battle was waged against the U-boats. So successfully was this done that Allied sinkings were reduced from a high point of 111 ships in June 1942 to only 11 in October of the same year. At this critical time, 20,000 ships were convoyed across the sea, and out of every 200, 199 reached port safely. American soldiers landed in England and the north of Ireland. At the invitation of the Free French, they landed on the island of New Caledonia in the Pacific, an island strategically located as a base from which to attack the Japanese. Materials for Russia arrived in Iran. Fresh troops and supplies from England and India arrived in Egypt. Urgently needed cargoes were carried by air. The airplane at last became a major means of transportation. The United States Army Air Transport Command opened air routes that covered 110,000 miles. They brought airplane parts for the armies in Egypt, repair parts for tanks in the battle area, hand grenades to the soldiers in the Pacific. They dropped food and medical supplies to isolated forces in the jungles of New Guinea. The tide had begun to turn. The United Nations were at last in a position to take the offensive.
The first Allied thrust came in the summer of 1942 against the Japanese in the Pacific. The Allied objectives were mere pinpoints in the vast reaches of the ocean: Guadalcanal and the Solomon Islands and southern New Guinea. The Allied plan was to wrest these important islands one by one from entrenched Japanese soldiers and Marines. On August 7th, 1942, American Marines in their first major amphibious operation landed on Guadalcanal.
If you enjoyed that, you may enjoy some of my other World War II videos. I have 3 World War II playlists, one of general videos, one with newsreel footage, and another concentrating on the efforts of women during World War II. Check out my channel for other interesting videos on a variety of topics, and subscribe because we'll be adding lots of new video, including new World War II footage.